The door of the Apex Behavioral Center exploded inward with enough force to crack the reinforced stopper and send a framed certificate swinging crookedly on the wall. Damian Vale stepped through the ruined entrance like a living declaration of war. At 6 feet 4 inches, he was too large for the elegant reception area and far too furious for its calming cream walls. A tailored black suit stretched across his massive shoulders. His hands were curled into fists, veins standing out along his forearms. Every brutal line of his devastatingly handsome face promised violence. The air changed around him. His alpha aura rolled through the building in a crushing wave, rattling the glass partitions and making the overhead lights flicker. Somewhere in the back, a dog whimpered. Another immediately flattened itself against the floor. Damian's eyes burned molten gold. "Which one of you?" he growled, his voice shaking the room. "Is the human therapist?" No one answered. The reception desk was empty. A row of expensive leather chairs stood abandoned beneath photographs of rehabilitated dogs. A basket of chew toys trembled on a shelf as Damian's power continued to expand. He had ruled the Crescent Syndicate for 12 years. He had broken rebellions before breakfast, negotiated peace between bloodthirsty packs, and once silenced an entire council chamber by lifting one eyebrow. Yet that morning, his executive assistant had looked him directly in the eye and informed him that his repeated destruction of boardroom furniture had become a financial concern. Damian had expected a discreet supernatural physician. Instead, his driver had delivered him to a building decorated with cartoon paw prints. Someone was going to die. A door opened at the end of the corridor. A woman stepped out, wiping her hands on a white towel. Damian's rage faltered for one fraction of a second. She was stunning. Not delicate, not fragile. Stunning in the way lightning was stunning just before it struck. She appeared to be in her mid-20s, with pale skin warmed by a healthy glow and long chestnut hair pulled into a practical ponytail. A few loose strands framed a face too beautiful for the utilitarian gray shirt and fitted black trousers she wore. Her blue-green eyes were calm, intelligent, and entirely unimpressed. She looked at the broken door. Then she looked at Damian. Her gaze moved over his glowing eyes, clenched fists, enormous body, and predatory stance with the clinical interest of someone examining a badly behaved animal. Damian allowed more power to flood the room. The windows vibrated. "Are you?" he demanded. "The therapist?" The woman dropped the towel over one shoulder. "I'm Chloe Mercer." "That does not answer my question. I own this center." Damian took one slow step toward her. Most humans would have fainted. Some wolves would have exposed their throats. Chloe reached behind her hip. Damian's instincts sharpened. His muscles prepared for an attack. She pulled out a plastic spray bottle. A thin stream of cold water struck him directly on the nose. Damian froze. The room became silent enough to hear a wall clock ticking. One drop slid from the bridge of his nose to his upper lip. Chloe lowered the bottle. "No," she said firmly. "Bad boy." Damian's mind stopped functioning. No one had called him a bad boy since he was 6 years old. And the last person who had tried had spent a month apologizing to the palace groundskeeper for the condition of his rose garden. Chloe pointed at the floor in front of her. "Sit!" Damian stared at her. His alpha aura surged with such force that a stack of brochures scattered across the reception area. "You have 5 seconds," he said very softly, "to explain why you are still alive." Chloe tilted her head. Threat displays, territorial posturing, dilated pupils, excessive vocalization. She nodded as though confirming a diagnosis. Severe fear-based aggression. Fear? It's common in poorly socialized males. "I am the Alpha King of Veridia City. And you're blocking the exit. I control every supernatural territory within 300 miles. You also broke my door. Armies surrender when they hear my name. Sit." Damian drew breath to roar. Then her scent reached him. Everything stopped. It slipped through the sterile air beneath the sharper smells of disinfectant, leather, and dog shampoo. Warm vanilla. Fresh rain. Something bright and sweet that reminded him of sunlight touching pine needles after a storm. His wolf awakened with such violence that Damian's vision blurred. Mate, The word tore through him. His heart slammed against his ribs. Heat raced beneath his skin. Every instinct he possessed twisted toward the woman standing before him. Mate. Impossible. Humans were not supposed to smell like salvation. Damian's rational mind recoiled. He did not know this woman. She had sprayed him in the face. She had called him poorly socialized. His wolf did not care. His wolf was already pressing against the inside of his skin, ecstatic and desperate. Ours. Damian locked his knees. No. Chloe pointed down again. Sit. His body dropped. One moment, Damian was standing in the center of the reception area, prepared to condemn everyone responsible for sending him there. The next, he was sitting perfectly still on the polished floor. His back was straight. His hands rested against his thighs. His knees were slightly apart because the cut of his trousers did not permit any other position. He looked like the world's largest, angriest obedience school graduate. Damian stared forward in horror. Chloe's eyebrows rose. "Well," she said, "that's encouraging." Damian attempted to stand. His body refused. His wolf had settled happily inside him, tail practically thumping. "You traitorous animal!" Mate commanded us. She assaulted us with water. Gentle correction. She called us bad. We deserved it. Damian nearly suffered a spiritual collapse. Chloe reached into her pocket and produced a small metal and plastic device. Click! The sharp sound echoed through the room. Before Damian could identify it, Chloe placed something between his parted lips. His mouth closed automatically. Smoky, rich flavor spread across his tongue. Beef. Excellent beef. Slow-dried, lightly seasoned, tender enough to melt beneath his teeth. Damian chewed once. His wolf made a sound of profound satisfaction inside him. Chloe smiled. Good boy. A terrifying wave of pleasure rolled down Damian's spine. Her fingers moved into his hair and scratched gently behind his right ear. Damian's eyes almost closed. Almost. He stopped them at the last second and glared up at her with every ounce of sovereign fury he could summon while seated obediently at her feet with beef jerky in his mouth. Chloe scratched the same spot again. His head tilted toward her hand. Damian wanted the building destroyed. He wanted the city destroyed. He wanted her to keep doing that forever. Interesting, Chloe murmured. Stop! His voice emerged rougher than intended. She removed her hand. The loss of contact struck him with immediate, irrational disappointment. Damian's wolf growled at him. Fix it! I am not asking a human to scratch my head. Mate! I am a king. Good boy. Silence. Chloe crouched in front of him, bringing her face level with his. Up close, her scent became unbearable. Her eyes were even more striking than he had realized, blue around the edges and green near the pupils. There was no fear in them, only confidence, curiosity, and the faint amusement of a professional who had just discovered an unexpectedly trainable subject. Can you tell me your name? She asked. You already know my name. I know what you shouted. I'm checking whether you can respond without growling. My name is Damian Vale. Click. Another piece of jerky appeared. Damian should have refused it. He opened his mouth. Chloe placed it on his tongue. Excellent. His pride screamed. His wolf rolled onto its back. Chloe stood. You can get up now. Damian rose so quickly that his shoes squeaked against the floor. He towered over her, reclaiming as much dignity as a man could reclaim after being rewarded for stating his own name. You will never do that again. Which part? Any of it. The spray? Yes. The command? Yes. Yes. The treat? Damian hesitated. Chloe noticed. Her mouth curved. Damian's jaw tightened. Especially the treat. Of course! She turned away from him. Every primitive instinct in his body objected. Damian followed her 3 steps down the corridor before realizing what he was doing. He stopped. Chloe continued walking. His wolf pulled at him like an invisible chain. Mate is leaving. She is walking 12 feet into another room. Too far. Damian remained where he was through an act of will powerful enough to hold back an army. Chloe glanced over her shoulder. Are you coming? No. Then the session is over. She disappeared through the doorway. Damian stood alone in the corridor. This was good. He could leave. He could return to his headquarters, discover which incompetent fool had scheduled this appointment, and dismantle that person's life with administrative precision. From the room ahead came a soft, metallic click. Damian was through the doorway before he consciously moved. Chloe stood beside a desk. A large black dog lay calmly on a padded mat in the corner, watching Damian with sympathetic brown eyes. Damian pointed at the animal. Why is that here? Chloe looked at the dog. Because this is a canine behavioral center. You treat dogs. That is generally what an animal behaviorist does. Damian's entire body became still. The photographs, the chew toys, the paw prints, the reception basket labeled complimentary training samples. He slowly turned his golden gaze toward Chloe. You are not a human therapist. I never said I was. My assistant booked me an appointment with a behavioral specialist. That explains the confusion. You sprayed me because you believed I was a dog? No, I sprayed you because you kicked down my door and started shouting. The black dog released a quiet huff that sounded suspiciously like laughter. Damian glared at it. The animal immediately covered its nose with one paw. Chloe stepped between them. Do not intimidate, Jasper. I did nothing. You're staring. He stared first. He's a dog. So am I, apparently. Chloe folded her arms. Damian became acutely aware of how close she was. Her head barely reached the top of his chest, yet she occupied the room as though size were irrelevant. His wolf watched her with total devotion. Damian's mind began building defenses. The mate bond was an instinct, not a command. He was civilized, rational, disciplined. He could resist her scent. He could resist her voice. He could resist the absurd desire to lower his head until her fingers returned to that exact place behind his ear. Chloe walked around him. Damian turned to keep her in sight. She moved left. He tracked her. She moved right. He followed. She stopped. So, she said, you're highly vigilant, reactive to movement, possessive of space, and unable to disengage from a perceived stimulus. I am watching you because you are suspicious. You followed me when I left. I was investigating. You sat on command. My knees malfunctioned. And you accepted 2 rewards. The first was forced into my mouth. The second? Damian said nothing. Chloe reached into her pocket. The scent of beef filled the room. Damian's focus snapped to her hand. She noticed that too. His dignity was being murdered one observation at a time. Who referred you? She asked. Damian gave her the name of his executive assistant. Chloe turned to her computer and entered it into the appointment system. Damian watched her face as she read the booking notes. Her lips pressed together. Then they twitched. What? She cleared her throat. The form says the client is a powerful, unneutered male with destructive tendencies, extreme territorial aggression, poor impulse control, and a history of biting. Damian's eyes narrowed. Chloe continued reading. It also says previous handlers have quit because they were afraid of him. My assistant is dead. That would be an inappropriate response. He included biting? 3 incidents. They were assassination attempts. I'll add that to your file. I do not have a file. You do now. She clicked something on the computer. A printer hummed. Damian stared at her, momentarily defeated by the sheer speed with which she had turned his humiliation into paperwork. Chloe collected the printed page. Based on today's assessment, I recommend a structured behavioral program. I will not participate in a behavioral program. Regular exercise, clear boundaries, controlled exposure to triggers, and positive reinforcement. I command a supernatural empire. And yet you broke a door because someone scheduled an appointment you didn't like. Damian stepped closer. His shadow covered her. The gold in his eyes brightened. You have no idea what I am. Chloe held his stare. No, she said calmly. But I know exactly what you're doing. And what is that? Trying to scare me because you don't know how to manage frustration. Damian leaned down until only inches separated their faces. His voice became a lethal whisper. Everyone is afraid of me. Chloe's pulse quickened. He heard it. For one glorious instant, Damian believed he had finally broken through her composure. Then, her scent deepened, warmer and sweeter. Not fear, awareness. Her gaze dropped briefly to his mouth before returning to his eyes. His wolf surged forward with a possessive roar. Mate. Damian gripped the edge of her desk to stop himself from touching her. Wood cracked beneath his fingers. Chloe looked at the damaged surface. Then she lifted the spray bottle. Damian released the desk immediately. They stared at each other. Chloe slowly lowered the bottle. Good choice. The praise struck him again. His shoulders loosened before he could stop them. Chloe clicked the trainer. Damian's mouth opened. She placed a strip of jerky between his lips. He accepted it in stunned silence. Her fingers brushed his lower lip. Heat detonated through his body. Chloe's expression changed. Her confidence remained, but her breathing became slightly shallower. Damian knew she felt something, even if her human senses could not identify the mate bond. He chewed slowly, refusing to look away. Chloe swallowed. Same time tomorrow, she said. I am not coming back. 10 in the morning. No, I'll bring a stronger spray bottle. Damian straightened. Cancel the appointment. Certainly. Relief mixed with an immediate violent sense of loss. Chloe reached for the computer. Damian's wolf slammed against his control. She is dismissing us. Good. She will give treats to another male. His growl filled the room. Chloe paused. Damian looked at the black dog on the mat. Jasper looked back at him. The dog's expression seemed to say that surrender was inevitable. Damian turned toward the exit with the remaining fragments of his pride. At 10, he said coldly. I will return to discuss compensation for your door. Chloe smiled behind him. Click! Damian stopped in the corridor. Every muscle in his body waited. Good boy, she called. His wolf went blissfully still. Damian closed his eyes. He was going to destroy that clicker right after tomorrow's appointment. The next morning, Damian arrived at 9:57 with 12 black vehicles, 6 armed escorts, 3 personal assistants, and enough luggage to suggest he intended to invade a small nation. Chloe stood in the open doorway of the Apex Behavioral Center, holding her coffee in one hand and the spray bottle in the other. Damian stepped out of the lead vehicle wearing a dark charcoal hoodie that probably cost more than her monthly mortgage. The soft fabric stretched across his massive chest and muscular arms. Black trousers emphasized the long, powerful lines of his legs, while polished boots struck the pavement with the measured authority of a king arriving to accept surrender. Behind him, his syndicate members began unloading suitcases. Many suitcases. Chloe watched a pair of grim-faced men carry in a garment case, a reinforced metal trunk, and what appeared to be a portable espresso machine. She took a slow drink of coffee. What is this? Damian stopped in front of her. His golden gaze dropped briefly to the spray bottle. His shoulders tightened. A residential therapy program. Chloe lowered her cup. We don't offer residential therapy. You do now. No, we don't. I purchased the building. Chloe stared at him. Damian's expression did not change. You purchased my center? The transaction was finalized at 6:15 this morning. You cannot buy my business without my consent. I did not buy your business. I bought the property from your landlord and transferred permanent operational control to you. Chloe blinked. Damian continued in the same calm tone. I also purchased the house attached to the rear garden. My house? Your mortgage has been cleared. Chloe looked toward the men carrying his belongings through her lobby. One of them passed with a black leather box marked private security equipment. Another followed with a crate of premium beef jerky. Damian's attention tracked the crate. Chloe noticed. You forced your way into a residential program because you want treats. His jaw hardened. This is a strategic decision. A strategic decision. My position requires constant behavioral stability. Yesterday, you said behavioral programs were insulting. Further analysis changed my assessment. You went home, missed the clicker, and panicked. I do not panic. Chloe lifted the clicker from her pocket. Damian's eyes immediately fixed on it. Click. His lips parted. Nothing appeared. He stared at her in betrayal. Chloe smiled. Interesting. Damian's syndicate members exchanged uneasy glances. A broad-shouldered man with silver at his temples stepped forward. He wore a formal black coat and the expression of someone who had survived several wars but was unprepared for the scene before him. Your Majesty, he said carefully, perhaps we should discuss the security implications of relocating to a civilian residence. Damian did not look away from Chloe. The location has been secured. The palace has reinforced walls, private medical facilities, and a subterranean command center. This property has a garden. The man went silent. Chloe's smile widened. Damian finally glanced at him. Marcus. Yes, Your Majesty? Explain the strategic value to the others. Marcus looked at the behavioral center, the cartoon paw prints on the windows, and the woman holding a spray bottle near his king's face. His expression became impressively blank. The garden, he said, provides strategic value. Exactly. Chloe turned and walked inside. Damian followed immediately. His escorts began to follow, too. Chloe spun around. No. Everyone stopped. She pointed at Damian. He can come. Then she pointed at the syndicate members. The rest of you stay outside. A ripple of outrage moved through the armed group. Damian's eyes flashed gold. Do as she says. The men obeyed so quickly that Chloe suspected they were delighted to escape. Damian crossed the threshold with a faint look of satisfaction. Chloe closed the door behind him. You are not moving into my house. My belongings are already in your guest room. You have never seen my guest room. It faces east, measures 14 by 16 feet, and has inadequate closet space. Chloe stared. Damian adjusted the sleeve of his hoodie. I had it expanded. You renovated my house overnight? The wall was unnecessary. That wall separated the guest room from my office. Your office has been relocated downstairs. Where? To the former dining room. I use the dining room. You eat over the sink. Chloe narrowed her eyes. Damian's face remained grave, but something smug flickered in his gaze. She pointed toward the training room. Place. His body turned before his pride could interfere. He took 2 long strides into the room and stopped on the blue mat beside Jasper. Damian looked down at the black dog. Jasper looked up at him. They both sat. Chloe entered behind them. Good. Damian's chest expanded. Jasper's tail thumped. Chloe clicked twice and gave each of them a strip of jerky. Damian accepted his without hesitation. Then he realized Jasper had received a larger piece. His eyes narrowed. Chloe caught the expression. Do not compare rewards. His is bigger. He completed the command without arguing. I did not argue. You purchased my house. That is unrelated. You also knocked down a wall. It was structurally pointless. Jasper chewed his treat with deliberate satisfaction. Damian glared at him. Chloe raised the spray bottle. Damian looked forward again. Excellent redirection, she said. His anger dissolved beneath the praise so rapidly that he hated himself. By noon, his clothing occupied half of Chloe's newly expanded guest suite. By 3, his personal chef had stocked her kitchen with enough food to sustain a military unit. By 6, a security team had installed surveillance cameras around the property, reinforced the doors, and discovered that Chloe had been hiding a spare key beneath a ceramic dog. Damian held the key between 2 fingers as though it were contaminated. This is unacceptable. It's convenient. It is an invitation to burglars. It's shaped like a bulldog. Nobody checks beneath the bulldog. Every criminal checks beneath the bulldog. Not all criminals. The incompetent ones are still criminals. Chloe took the key from him and returned it beneath the ornament. Damian immediately retrieved it. She put it back. He took it again. Leave it. No. Damian. No. No. Drop it. His fingers opened. The key fell into her palm. Damian looked at his hand in disgust. Chloe clicked and kissed his cheek. The contact lasted less than a second. It still left him standing motionless in the garden while she walked inside. His wolf became insufferable. She kissed us. It was corrective reinforcement. She put her mouth on us. My cheek. Our cheek. Damian touched the spot with 2 fingers. Then he heard Chloe call from the kitchen. "Do not hide that key somewhere else." He lowered his hand. "I was not going to." "Good boy." His eyes closed. He was the ruler of Veridia City. Entire factions feared the sound of his footsteps. Yet 2 words from one human woman could turn his bones into warm wax. The residential program quickly developed a routine. Damian woke before sunrise, trained for 2 hours, reviewed syndicate intelligence, and stood outside Chloe's bedroom, pretending he had arrived there accidentally. Chloe would eventually open the door, hair tousled and eyes sleepy, and find him looming in the hallway. "Were you waiting for me?" "No. You're standing 6 inches from my door." "I was assessing the corridor." "For 90 minutes?" "Security requires patience." She would pat his chest and say good morning. Damian would spend the next hour pretending the touch had not made his wolf ecstatic. He accompanied her to the center. He sat through consultations with aggressive mastiffs, nervous shepherds, and one tiny terrier that repeatedly attempted to bite his ankle. The terrier's name was Princess. Damian despised Princess. Princess despised Damian. Chloe called their conflict mutual insecurity. Damian called it attempted regicide. After 3 days, he stopped denying that he enjoyed the program. After 5, he began carrying Chloe's treat pouch without being asked. After 7, he fired a guard for eating one of the beef strips. "It was food," Marcus argued when Damian informed him of the dismissal. "It was Chloe's food. It was in an unmarked container. It was in her training pouch." Marcus stared at him. Damian stared back. Marcus quietly reassigned the guard instead. On the 8th morning, Chloe announced that they were taking a walk through the Sunmere district. Damian inspected the route, deployed discreet security teams, and changed his black shirt for the charcoal hoodie Chloe had once said made him look less likely to invade a government building. The afternoon was bright and warm. Sunlight spilled across the fictional avenues of Veridia City, shining on pale stone buildings, flower boxes, and the glass fronts of small cafes. Chloe walked beside him with Jasper's leash looped around one wrist. Damian walked on her other side. He kept half a step behind, not because she had trained him to heel, regardless of what she claimed, but because it gave him the clearest view of potential threats. It also gave him a clear view of her. She wore a fitted blue dress beneath a light jacket. The dress moved around her thighs with each step. Her chestnut ponytail swung gently between her shoulder blades. Damian had already frightened 3 men by catching them looking. He considered that restraint. Chloe stopped near a street vendor selling baked pastries. "Stay!" Damian halted. She handed him Jasper's leash and walked toward the counter. Damian stared after her. Jasper sat at his feet. "We are not staying," Damian told the dog. Jasper glanced at the leash. "We are providing security from a fixed position." Jasper yawned. A human man approached Chloe. Damian noticed him immediately. He was tall by human standards, with blonde hair, an athletic build, and the careless confidence of a male who had never encountered a superior predator. The stranger smiled at Chloe. She smiled politely back. Damian's vision sharpened. He heard the man say something about her dress. Chloe laughed. The sound should have pleased him. Instead, a brutal pressure ignited beneath Damian's ribs. The stranger leaned closer. Damian's eyes flashed gold. Jasper stood. The man touched Chloe's arm. The world narrowed to that hand. A lethal growl rolled from Damian's chest. Windows trembled. People on the sidewalk fell silent. The stranger turned. His smile vanished. Damian handed Jasper's leash to a terrified passerby and started forward. His human mask cracked with every step. Gold burned through his eyes. His canines lengthened. The alpha aura that had been restrained for days burst over the sunny street like an approaching storm. The stranger stumbled backward. Chloe stepped between them. Damian barely saw her. His wolf was roaring. Threat. Remove him. Break the hand that touched her. tear out the throat that spoke to her. Damian, he continued forward. The human male backed into the vendor's cart. Damian's fingers curled, nails sharpening into claws. Mine, he growled. The single word carried enough supernatural power to make every person nearby lower their head. Chloe grabbed the collar of his expensive hoodie. She yanked hard. Damian's enormous body jerked downward. He could have resisted. He could have stood against 10 men pulling at him. But Chloe's fist was twisted in his collar. His knees bent instantly. She dragged his face to her level. Damian, stop resource guarding. The stranger stared in disbelief. Damian's attention remained locked over Chloe's shoulder. He touched you. He asked where I bought my jacket. He wants you. That is not an emergency. He looked at your mouth. You are looking at his throat. I intend to remove it. No. The command cracked through his rage. Damian's muscles shook. His eyes burned brighter. The human stranger made the mistake of moving. Damian surged. Chloe tightened her grip and pulled his face closer. Look at me. He fought it. Every lethal instinct demanded that he watch the threat. His wolf clawed beneath his skin, frantic to defend what belonged to them. Damian, Chloe said sharply. Look at me. A rough sound escaped him, not a growl, a whine. The Alpha King of Veridia City whined in the middle of a public street. Several people heard it. Damian would deal with them later. Chloe's gaze held his. Eyes here. His focus dragged away from the stranger. He looked at her. Only her. Her blue-green eyes were fierce and steady. Her fingers remained wrapped in his collar, keeping the towering predator bent before her. Good, she said softly. Stay with me. Damian breathed through his nose. Her scent filled him. Vanilla, rain, sunlight. The claws at his fingertips slowly retracted. The gold in his eyes dimmed. Behind her, the human male fled. Damian heard every hurried footstep. He did not turn. Chloe was still holding him. Very good, she whispered. His chest rose and fell. I wanted to kill him. But you didn't. You stopped me. You stopped yourself. For you. Something changed in her expression. The stern authority softened. Heat entered her eyes. Damian's wolf went silent. Chloe released his collar. For one terrible moment, he thought the reward would be jerky. He wanted her praise. He wanted her touch. He would have accepted the treat with humiliating enthusiasm. But he wanted something else so much more that it frightened him. Chloe placed both hands on his face. Then she kissed him. It was not a quick touch to the cheek. Her mouth pressed fully against his, warm and sweet and shockingly certain. Damian stopped breathing. The street disappeared. The watching crowd disappeared. His empire, his pride, and every rule he had ever lived by vanished beneath the pressure of her lips. Then instinct took over. He wrapped one arm around her waist and pulled her against his chest. Chloe made a soft sound. Damian deepened the kiss. His massive hand spread across her lower back, holding her with desperate care. Her fingers slid into his hair. She rose onto her toes as his mouth moved over hers, the reward becoming something hotter and sweeter than anything his wolf had imagined. When Chloe finally pulled back, Damian followed her. She pressed 2 fingers against his lips. Stay. He froze. Her cheeks were flushed. Her breathing was uneven. Damian stared at her. That, he said hoarsely, was positive reinforcement? Yes. For controlling aggression? Yes. His gaze shifted briefly toward the direction the stranger had fled. Chloe caught his jaw and turned him back. No. Damian looked at her immediately. She smiled. The realization entered him with devastating clarity. He had moved into her house for praise. He followed her from room to room. He carried treats in his pockets. He sat when commanded, released objects when told, and allowed a 5'6" human woman to drag him down by his collar in public. Now one kiss had erased his last desire to resist. The most powerful alpha in Veridia City was entirely, hopelessly domesticated. His wolf settled inside him with smug satisfaction. Good boy. Damian lowered his forehead to Chloe's. "This program," he murmured, "may require lifelong treatment." Chloe's smile became dangerously beautiful. "We'll evaluate your progress." Click. Damian opened his mouth. Chloe laughed and kissed him again. Chloe laughed and kissed him again. Damian decided, with the clarity of a man receiving divine revelation, that positive reinforcement was the greatest scientific achievement in human history. Unfortunately, Chloe refused to repeat the lesson for the rest of the afternoon. She claimed that rewards had to remain unpredictable to preserve their effectiveness. Damian argued that consistency was essential to behavioral conditioning. Chloe asked when he had become an expert. Damian replied that he had purchased and read 23 books on the subject during breakfast. She stared at him for several seconds. Then she scratched behind his ear. Damian forgot the argument. 3 nights later, he stood in the enormous dressing room he had built inside Chloe's house, staring at his reflection with the grim expression of a condemned man. His tuxedo was black, perfectly tailored, and expensive enough to fund a small uprising. The jacket followed the brutal width of his shoulders before narrowing at his waist. A crisp white shirt covered his chest. His dark hair had been pushed back from his forehead, revealing the hard planes of a face that supernatural society had learned to fear. He looked like a king. He felt like an animal being prepared for exhibition. "No," he said. Chloe's voice floated from the bedroom. "You haven't even seen the plan. I heard the word socialization exercise. That is the plan. I have attended hundreds of galas. You threatened someone at the last one. He was smuggling weapons. You threw him through an ice sculpture. It was strategically located. You also growled at the orchestra. They were too loud. The entire purpose of an orchestra is to be heard." Damian adjusted his cufflinks with unnecessary force. The Moonspire Gala was held twice each year by Veridia City's oldest supernatural families. Officially, it was a charitable event supporting restoration projects across the hidden districts. In reality, it was a gathering of predators wearing formal clothes while negotiating territorial rights, blood debts, and quiet assassinations over champagne. Damian did not need socialization training. He needed Chloe to remain at home behind reinforced walls while he attended alone. The bedroom door opened. Every thought in his head vanished. Chloe stepped into the dressing room. Her gown was deep emerald, the color of a forest just before midnight. It fitted closely across her body, revealing the elegant curve of her waist and the long line of one leg through a high slit. The neckline dipped enough to expose smooth, pale skin and the tempting beginning of her breasts without sacrificing the commanding sophistication that seemed to follow her everywhere. Her chestnut hair fell in soft waves over one shoulder. A pair of delicate earrings caught the light. Damian's wolf rose inside him and immediately abandoned civilization. Mine. Damian gripped the edge of the dresser. Chloe turned slowly. "Well?" "No." Her brows lifted. "No? You are not wearing that. You bought it. I made a mistake. You chose it from 12 options. I lacked critical information. Such as? How it would look on you." Chloe smiled. "Is that a compliment? It is a security assessment. Of my dress? Of everyone who will see you in it." She picked up a small black clutch from the bed. Damian watched the movement of her hips. His jaw tightened. "Change. No." "Chloe!" She walked toward him. Damian's gaze dropped to the slit in the gown. Chloe snapped her fingers. His eyes returned to her face. "Focus! I am focused. On my thigh. It is exposed. Only part of it. That is not reassuring." She reached up and straightened his bow tie. Damian held completely still beneath her hands. "This is good practice," she said. "For what?" Remaining calm around triggers. "You are not a trigger. Your pupils are glowing." Damian looked toward the mirror. Gold had already spread through his eyes. He forced it back. Chloe smiled with satisfaction. "Good control." The praise settled through him like heat. Then she clicked the trainer hidden in her clutch. Damian stared at the purse. "You brought it." "Of course. To the Moonspire Gala. It's part of your training. I will not perform tricks in front of the supernatural elite. You sat in front of an entire coffee shop yesterday. There was a pastry involved. You begged for half of it. I negotiated. You put your chin on my knee. A tactical decision. Chloe patted his chest. You'll do wonderfully. Damian looked down at her. The urge to remove the gown and keep her locked safely in the bedroom warred with his absolute inability to deny her anything. His wolf offered its opinion. Guardmate. Damian could do that. He offered her his arm. The Moonspire estate rose above the northern edge of Veridia City, like a palace constructed for beautiful monsters. Black stone towers pierced the night sky. Silver flames burned in iron braziers along the entrance. Luxury vehicles deposited vampires, wolves, witches, and creatures whose true forms had been forgotten by human history. Damian stepped from his vehicle first. Conversation stopped. His presence struck the crowd in a silent wave. Then Chloe emerged beside him. Conversation began again in urgent whispers. Damian heard every word. Human. Beautiful. Is that her? The trainer? He growled. Chloe squeezed his arm. Neutral. They are discussing you. They are curious. One vampire described your throat. He said my necklace drew attention to it. He looked hungry. He is a vampire. That is not a defense. Chloe drew him toward the entrance. Remember the objective. Controlled exposure. Calm observation. Appropriate responses. I know how to behave at a gala. A young wolf bowed too deeply while staring at Chloe's chest. Damian's aura cracked a marble step. Chloe tightened her grip. Appropriate responses. He is fortunate to have eyes. You are not removing anyone's eyes. Then the standards are too restrictive. Inside, hundreds of supernatural guests filled a glittering ballroom beneath chandeliers made from enchanted crystal. A string ensemble played near the raised stage. Servers moved through the crowd carrying silver trays. Damian entered with Chloe on his arm. The room responded instantly. Predators moved aside. Conversations died. Ancient nobles lowered their eyes. Damian had spent decades creating that reaction. His power was not ceremonial. Every creature present knew he had earned his crown through violence, strategy, and the destruction of every rival who had mistaken restraint for weakness. Yet Chloe moved beside him without hesitation. She paused near a marble column and took in the room. Busy environment, she observed. This is a political summit. Multiple stimuli, limited exits, elevated noise, unfamiliar scents. These people command armies! Exactly. Very challenging socialization conditions. Damian looked down at her. She opened her clutch. Click! He felt his attention sharpen. Chloe produced a piece of jerky. Damian scanned the room. No one is watching, she whispered. Everyone was watching. Damian accepted the treat anyway. A nearby council elder nearly dropped his drink. Chloe smiled up at him. Good boy! The elder's face went blank with shock. Damian chewed slowly while staring directly at him. The elder turned away. For the next hour, Chloe treated the most dangerous gathering in Veridia City like an advanced training session. When Damian tolerated a vampire standing too close, she praised him. When he allowed a witch to compliment her gown without threatening bloodshed, she clicked the trainer. When a rival alpha shook Chloe's hand, Damian's fingers dented his champagne glass, but he did not attack. Chloe slipped her hand into his. Excellent restraint. Damian's grip immediately relaxed. He hated the gala. He loved the training. He especially loved the way Chloe remained close, occasionally smoothing his lapel or touching his wrist when his attention sharpened. Other men noticed her. Damian noticed them noticing. His aura rolled continuously beneath his skin, restrained only by the invisible leash of her voice. Near midnight, the orchestra changed songs. Chloe leaned against his arm. You've made significant progress. I have endured 6 approaches, 4 compliments directed at you, and 1 attempted dance invitation. And no casualties. The night is young. She looked up at him. Damian lowered his voice. Reward? You already had 3. I controlled myself when Lord Corvin kissed your hand. You cracked the floor. I did not crack his skull. Chloe considered this. Then she rose onto her toes and kissed the corner of his mouth. Damian became completely still. Good boy, she whispered. The lights went out. Damian moved before the first scream. He pulled Chloe against his chest and turned, shielding her with his body. The enchanted chandeliers died one after another. The orchestra fell silent. Darkness swallowed the ballroom. Then red emergency flames ignited along the walls. Figures appeared at every exit. They wore dark combat clothing and silver masks, carved with the symbol of a broken crown. Rogues. Dozens of them. The nearest guests reached for concealed weapons, but magical barriers slammed into place around the ballroom, separating the crowd into smaller groups. Damian's security detail moved from the eastern wall. A blast of violet energy threw them backward. The attack had been planned. A tall rogue stepped onto the stage. He removed his mask, revealing a scarred face and white eyes. "Damian Vale," he called, "the great king of Veridia City." Damian shifted Chloe behind him. His eyes burned gold. The rogue leader smiled. "We expected a monster." More enemies emerged from the shadows. They surrounded Damian and Chloe in a tightening circle. "But look at you," the leader continued, "standing in a collar you cannot see." Laughter moved through the rogues. Damian's canines lengthened. Chloe placed one hand against his back. He stopped. The rogue noticed. His smile widened. "So the stories are true. The human controls you." Damian said nothing. His silence was not fear. It was discipline. Every instinct demanded blood. His wolf hurled itself against the restraint Chloe had built inside him. But she had not issued a command. Not yet. A female rogue moved behind Chloe. Damian turned instantly. Chloe caught his sleeve. "Stay!" His muscles locked. The enemies laughed louder. "Remarkable," the leader said. "The most feared alpha in the modern world reduced to a trained pet." One rogue made a kissing noise. Another whistled. "Sit, Damian. Roll over. Beg for your treat." Damian's expression became empty. That frightened several of them more than anger would have. The leader jumped from the stage and landed in front of Chloe. He carried a curved silver blade coated in black poison. Damian's power pressed against the room. The marble beneath his shoes began to fracture. The rogue lifted the blade toward Chloe's face. Damian moved half a step. Chloe's hand tightened around his wrist. "Not yet." His gaze snapped to her. She was calm, too calm. The rogue traced the tip of the blade through the air beside her cheek. "You truly believe you tamed him?" Chloe looked at the weapon, then at the ring of enemies, then at Damian. "No," she said. The leader's amusement faded. Chloe slipped her hand from Damian's wrist. "I taught him control." She set her clutch purse carefully on a nearby table. The tiny clicker inside made a soft metallic sound. Damian felt the change before she spoke. Chloe turned toward him. Her blue-green eyes held no fear, only cold, absolute authority. "Damian," she said. His wolf went silent. "Free!" The invisible leash snapped. Damian ripped off his bow tie. Gold exploded through his eyes. The ballroom shook. His alpha aura did not expand like wind. It detonated. Every window shattered outward. The red flames bent away from him. Hundreds of supernatural creatures dropped to their knees as ancient instinct recognized the arrival of something above them in the hierarchy of predators. The rogue leader staggered. Damian caught his wrist. The bones broke with a wet crack. The poisoned blade fell. Before it touched the floor, Damian drove his elbow into the rogue's chest. The man flew across the ballroom, struck a stone column, and collapsed beneath falling debris. The others attacked. Damian smiled. It was not a human expression. The first rogue swung a silver chain toward his throat. Damian caught it in one hand, wrapped it around the attacker's arm, and pulled. The rogue left the ground. Damian slammed him into two others with enough force to break all three bodies against the marble. A witch released a spear of blue fire. Damian walked through it. His tuxedo jacket burned from one shoulder, exposing the heavy muscle beneath his shirt. He reached the witch before she completed her second spell. One hand closed around her throat. He lifted her, turned, and threw her through the magical barrier. The barrier shattered. Panic erupted among the attackers. "Kill the human!" Someone shouted. Every remaining rogue turned toward Chloe. Damian's head moved slowly. The sound that emerged from his chest was deeper than a growl. It was the promise of extinction. He crossed the distance in a blur. Claws tore through his fingertips. The first enemy reaching for Chloe lost the weapon, the hand holding it, and consciousness in less than a second. Damian caught another by the face and drove him into the floor. Marble erupted. A third came from behind. Chloe calmly stepped aside. Damian's fist passed over her shoulder and struck the attacker in the sternum. The body flew 20 feet and landed without moving. Damian remained perfectly aware of Chloe's position. His violence was not uncontrolled. It was precise. Every movement was calibrated to destroy the threat without allowing so much as a drop of enemy blood to touch her gown. 5 rogues rushed him together. Damian removed his ruined jacket. He wrapped it around one attacker's arm, pulled the man forward, and used him as a shield against a silver dagger. Then he drove a boot into the second rogue's knee, broke the third's jaw with the back of his fist, and caught the fourth by the throat. The fifth hesitated. Damian threw the fourth into him. Both crashed through a banquet table. The ballroom had become silent except for breaking stone, screams, and Damian's steady breathing. He seized one rogue by the back of the neck and forced him to his knees. "Who sent you?" The man spat at his shoes. Damian broke his shoulder. The scream echoed through the chamber. Wrong response. A silver bolt streaked toward Chloe. Damian caught it without looking. His fingers closed around the shaft inches from her heart. He turned toward the archer. The rogue dropped the weapon and ran. Damian hurled the bolt. It struck the fleeing man through the shoulder and pinned him to the ballroom door. Damian stepped over the fallen enemies. Blood stained his white shirt. His hair had fallen across his forehead. Golden light blazed from his eyes so brightly that his face seemed carved from the violence of an ancient god. The surviving rogues backed away. The leader dragged himself from beneath the broken column, one arm hanging uselessly. "You are supposed to be tamed!" he gasped. Damian looked at Chloe. She stood beside the table, one hand resting near her clutch. Her gown remained perfect. Her eyes were fixed on him with a heat that made his wolf roar for an entirely different reason. Damian turned back to the rogue. "She did not tame me." He walked forward. "She taught me when not to kill." The rogue raised his good hand. Damian caught him by the throat and lifted him from the floor. "And you heard her release the command." He threw the leader across the ballroom. The man struck the stage and broke through it. Silence followed. Damian stood among the wreckage, chest rising beneath his torn shirt. No rogue remained standing. No guest dared move. The Alpha King slowly turned toward Chloe. The gold in his eyes still burned. Blood marked his knuckles. His claws remained extended. For the first time since the battle began, uncertainty entered his expression. He had shown her everything. Not the disciplined king, not the reluctant student, the beast. Chloe picked up her clutch. She walked across the ruined ballroom, stepping over shattered glass and unconscious enemies, until she stood directly in front of him. Damian lowered his head. Her hand rose. Every witness held their breath. Chloe gently wiped a streak of blood from his cheek with her thumb. Then she reached into her purse. Click. Damian's mouth opened automatically. Chloe placed a piece of jerky on his tongue. "Excellent recall," she said. The terrifying Alpha King chewed. Chloe scratched behind his ear. His eyes nearly closed. Around them, the supernatural elite stared at the most powerful predator in Veridia City, surrounded by the bodies of everyone foolish enough to call him tame. Damian leaned slightly into her touch. Chloe smiled. "Good boy!" Chloe smiled. "Good boy!" The words moved through the ruined ballroom more powerfully than Damian's alpha command had. The surviving guests remained frozen beneath fractured chandeliers, surrounded by shattered marble, overturned tables, and the motionless bodies of the rogues who had dared to threaten their king's mate. Ancient vampires stood with their heads lowered. Rival alphas remained on one knee. Witches held unfinished spells between trembling fingers, too frightened to release the magic or draw attention to themselves. Every supernatural creature in the hall watched Damian. Damian watched only Chloe. His chest rose and fell beneath his torn white shirt. Blood streaked the hard lines of his face and stained his exposed forearms. His tuxedo jacket lay somewhere beneath a broken table. His bow tie had vanished during the first few seconds of violence, yet his trousers remained intact. His shoes were still polished. Damian looked down at himself as if conducting a final inspection. Then he stepped over an unconscious rogue and walked directly toward Chloe. The guests closest to his path recoiled. Damian ignored them. His golden eyes still blazed with enough power to make the air vibrate, but the murderous tension had left his shoulders. With every step toward Chloe, the terrifying apex predator seemed to shed another layer of violence. By the time he reached her, his claws had retracted. He stopped less than an inch away. Chloe expected him to straighten, issue orders, or command his security team to arrest the surviving attackers. Instead, Damian bowed his enormous body over hers. He lowered his head and rested his chin on her shoulder. The most feared Alpha King in Veridia City leaned against her like a giant, exhausted animal seeking reassurance after completing a difficult task. Chloe's heart softened so quickly it almost hurt. His breath was hot against her neck. His arms remained carefully at his sides, as though he did not trust his blood-stained hands to touch her beautiful gown. "I didn't ruin my suit," he whispered huskily. Chloe glanced at the missing jacket and torn shirt. "That may be debatable. The trousers are undamaged. That is impressive. And I didn't hurt the innocents." His voice lowered further. Only she could hear the vulnerability beneath it. "I remembered." Chloe slowly lifted her hands. Damian remained perfectly still as she cupped his face. There was blood along his jaw, none of it his. A shallow silver burn marked one side of his neck. His dark hair was disordered, his eyes still burning gold, but the expression he gave her was not the expression of a king waiting for tribute. It was the look of a man waiting to learn whether he had frightened away the only person whose approval mattered. "You remembered everything," Chloe said. His gaze searched hers. "I maintained spatial awareness." "You did. I redirected threats away from you. Perfectly. I did not chase the fleeing civilians. Excellent impulse control." The corner of his mouth shifted. "Reward?" The single word was quiet, rough, and almost unbearably hopeful. A nervous murmur moved through the watching crowd. Chloe did not care. She had spent her professional life studying creatures that other people labeled dangerous. Again and again, she had learned that aggression was rarely the whole truth. Beneath the teeth and claws, there was often fear, pain, isolation, a desperate belief that the world would hurt them unless they struck first. Damian's violence was real. So was his control. So was the extraordinary tenderness with which he waited for her to choose him. Chloe slid her fingers into his hair. "You earned the highest value reward." His pupils expanded. "What is it?" She rose onto her toes and kissed him. Damian made a low, stunned sound against her mouth. For one breath, the giant alpha remained motionless. Then his control broke in an entirely different way. His arms closed around her. One hand spread across her waist, pulling her firmly against his powerful body. The other cradled the back of her head, his blood-stained fingers careful not to disturb her hair as he bent over her. The kiss deepened. It was no longer a training reward. It was a confession. Damian kissed her with all the hunger he had restrained since the moment her scent had first brought him to his knees. His mouth moved against hers with fierce devotion, demanding nothing she did not willingly give, and cherishing everything she offered. Chloe felt the heat of him through the torn fabric of his shirt. Beneath her palms, his muscles trembled, not from battle, but from the effort of remaining gentle. She parted her lips. A growl vibrated through his chest. The supernatural elite flinched as one. Chloe smiled into the kiss. Her fingers tightened in Damian's hair, and the growl changed into something lower, rougher, almost helpless. His alpha power flooded the ruined ballroom once again. This time, it did not carry a threat. It carried recognition. "Mate." The ancient words seemed to pulse through the marble beneath their feet. Every supernatural creature present understood what they were witnessing. Their king had not been weakened. He had found the one person before whom he could lower his defenses without surrendering his strength. Damian finally lifted his mouth from hers, but he did not release her. His forehead rested against Chloe's. His eyes had lost their violent brightness, becoming a warm, molten gold. "Again!" he whispered. Chloe brushed her thumb over his lower lip. "Greedy! I completed an advanced exercise under extreme conditions. You demolished most of the ballroom. The ballroom was structurally hostile. You threw someone through the stage. He criticized the program." Despite herself, Chloe laughed. The sound transformed Damian's expression. A smile appeared. It was small and rare and devastatingly beautiful. Behind them, someone shifted. Damian's smile disappeared. His head turned. The entire ballroom went still. Chloe touched his jaw. "Leave it!" Damian looked at her. Then he looked away from the trembling guests. "Good choice," she said. His attention settled on her again with immediate satisfaction. Chloe kissed his cheek. Damian straightened and finally addressed the room. "Marcus." His chief enforcer rose from behind an overturned table. His coat was torn, and blood marked one temple, but he was standing. "Yes, Your Majesty. Secure the prisoners. Identify everyone involved in the breach. At once, and send the estate owners an invoice for my shirt." Marcus looked at the wreckage. "Your shirt? It was custom made." Chloe touched the torn collar. "You ripped it yourself." Damian glanced down at her. "I was under operational pressure." Marcus wisely bowed and turned away. Damian guided Chloe through the wreckage with one arm around her waist. Every supernatural they passed lowered their eyes. No one laughed. No one called him tame. No one mistook love for weakness again. The journey back to the Apex Behavioral Center passed in charged silence. Damian sat beside Chloe in the rear of the vehicle, one massive hand resting on her thigh. He did not speak. He barely moved. But his thumb traced slow circles against the emerald fabric of her gown, each pass sending warmth through her body. His scent had changed after the battle. It was darker now, carrying smoke, cedar, and the wild electric charge of his wolf. Beneath it was something warmer, something that belonged only to her. Chloe placed her hand over his. Damian's fingers tightened. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "No." "The silver burn?" "Already healing." She looked at the blood on his shirt. "None of it is mine." "I know." He turned his head toward her. The city lights moved across his face as the vehicle passed through Veridia's midnight streets. "You were not afraid." "It was not a question." Chloe considered her answer. "I was afraid something would happen to you." Damian's expression hardened. "Nothing will happen to me." "That sounds like overconfidence." "It is a promise. You cannot control everything. I can control enough." She squeezed his hand. "You don't always have to." His gaze lowered to their joined fingers. For a man who commanded an empire, surrender did not come naturally. Yet she had seen him choose it again and again. Not because she had broken him, because he trusted her. When they arrived at the center, Damian dismissed the security detail with a glance. He followed Chloe through the damaged front entrance. He still had not allowed anyone to replace because, according to him, it had historical significance. The building was dark and quiet. Jasper lifted his head from the mat in the reception room. He looked at Damian's torn clothing, sniffed once, and returned to sleep. Damian frowned at him. "No concern for your king?" Jasper sighed. "He's tired," Chloe said. "He lacks vigilance. He knows we're safe." The words settled between them. Safe. Damian turned toward her. Chloe's pulse quickened. The comedic warmth of the moment shifted, deepening into something heavier and more intimate. Damian walked forward. Chloe stepped back. Not from fear, from the overwhelming intensity in his eyes. He followed her through the corridor until her back touched the wall beside the training room. Damian placed one hand against the wall near her head. His other hand settled at her waist. He did not trap her. There was enough space for her to leave. They both knew she would not. "You released me tonight," he said. His voice was dark and husky. You needed to protect the room. I needed to protect you. I was part of the room. You were the only part that mattered. Damian. I know. His mouth curved slightly. Resource guarding. Extreme resource guarding. I am willing to continue treatment. For how long? His gaze moved over her face. Forever. The humor faded from his expression. Damian lowered his head until his lips hovered above hers. I want a lifetime adoption contract. Chloe stared at him. You want what? A permanent agreement. You're not a dog. You have spent weeks suggesting otherwise. For behavioral purposes. I require long-term behavioral support. You require supervision. Then supervise me? His hand tightened slightly at her waist. Every morning, every night. In this house, in my palace, at every syndicate meeting where someone tests my patience. Chloe's throat tightened. Damian continued, his voice rougher now. Tell me when to stop. Tell me when I am wrong. Stand in front of the beast and remind him that he has something more valuable than victory. His eyes burned into hers. And when I deserve it, tell me I am good. The plea beneath the words undid her. Chloe lifted one hand and touched his cheek. You would give me that much power? No. Damian turned his face into her palm and kissed its center. I would give you all of it. His lips moved to her wrist. To protect? Another kiss. Higher. To challenge. His mouth brushed the sensitive skin inside her forearm. To keep. Chloe's breath caught. Damian watched every reaction, his predatory focus transformed into reverence. He could have overwhelmed her with his strength. Instead, he waited for each small movement, each silent permission. You are not surrendering your life to me, she whispered. I am sharing it with you. That is different. I know. His hand slid from her waist to the curve of her back. I have spent my entire life being obeyed, feared, watched for weakness. His forehead touched hers. With you, I do not have to be a king every second. Chloe's fingers entered his hair. What are you with me? His eyes closed. Yours. The word carried more force than any command he had given. Chloe kissed him. Damian responded instantly. His body pressed closer, surrounding her with heat, without crushing her against the wall. His mouth moved over hers, hungry and tender, the contrast making her knees weaken. He felt it. His arm secured her before she could slip. The kiss became deeper. His fingers traced the bare skin of her back above the gown, leaving trails of fire. Chloe pulled at his torn shirt, needing to feel the man beneath the armor. Damian stepped back only long enough to remove it. The fabric fell to the floor. Chloe's breath stopped. She had seen the width of his shoulders and felt the hard strength of his body, but nothing prepared her for the sight of him beneath the center's dim lights. Every line of him spoke of controlled power. His chest was broad and heavily muscled, marked by old scars that crossed his pale skin like fragments of forgotten battles. His abdomen tightened as her gaze moved downward. Damian took her hand. He placed it over his heart. The beat beneath her palm was fast and heavy. For you, he said. Chloe looked up. His expression held no arrogance now, only truth. She traced one scar near his ribs. Damian shuddered. Does that hurt? No. Her fingers followed another. His breathing deepened. Sensitive? Only when you touch me. She leaned forward and kissed the oldest scar. A rough growl escaped him. His hands closed around her hips, then immediately loosened, as though he feared holding too tightly. Chloe raised her face. You don't have to be afraid of yourself with me. I could hurt you. You won't. My wolf is not gentle. Your wolf sat on command the first day we met. Damian's mouth twitched. That remains classified. He also loves jerky. High-quality jerky. And scratches. Specific scratches. Chloe reached behind his ear. Damian's head tilted before he could stop it. She smiled. The embarrassment in his eyes lasted only a second before hunger replaced it. He caught her wrist and kissed her palm, then her fingertips, then the pulse at the base of her thumb. "Chloe?" The way he spoke her name made it sound like both a prayer and a warning. "Yes, I need to claim you." Her heart slammed against her ribs. Damian's fingers tightened around hers. "But I will not, unless you choose it. Not the bond. Not instinct. You." The room seemed to hold its breath. Chloe had spent weeks commanding him, correcting him, testing whether the brutal alpha could control the creature inside him. Now he stood before her with every defense removed, asking rather than taking. She cupped the back of his neck. "I choose the man," she whispered. His eyes brightened. "And the wolf." Gold flooded his irises. "And the ridiculous, possessive king who purchased my house because he wanted beef jerky. I wanted you. You could have asked me on a date. I lacked training." She laughed softly. Then her expression became serious. "I choose you, Damian." His control shattered. He kissed her with a force that stole the air from her lungs, lifting her against the wall as though she weighed nothing. Chloe wrapped her arms around his shoulders and held on as months of tension erupted between them. Damian's mouth left hers and moved along her jaw. Each kiss burned. When he reached her throat, he stopped. His breath washed across her skin. Chloe felt the sharp edge of his canines, but he did not bite. He waited. Even now, even trembling with the instinct to seal their bond, he waited for her command. Chloe threaded her fingers through his hair and tilted her head, offering him the vulnerable curve of her neck. "Claim!" Damian growled. The sound rolled through her body. His lips pressed to her pulse in a kiss so tender it made her chest ache. Then his teeth closed carefully against her skin. Pain flashed. It vanished beneath a wave of heat. The mate bond ignited. Chloe gasped as Damian's emotions poured into her. Devotion. Need. A loneliness so old and deep that it had become part of his bones. And beneath everything, love. Wild, absolute, and willingly restrained in her hands. Damian released her skin and kissed the mark. Again. Again. His shoulders trembled. Chloe felt something warm touch her neck and realized the terrifying Alpha King was crying. She pulled his face toward hers. Damian tried to turn away. "Look at me." He obeyed. Tears shone in his golden eyes. Chloe kissed them away. "You're safe," she whispered. The words broke the last wall inside him. Damian buried his face against her neck, holding her as if she were the only solid thing in a collapsing world. Chloe wrapped herself around him. For once, there was no command, no correction, no reward, only acceptance. Months later, the Apex Behavioral Center had a new front door, a larger training wing, and a private office Damian claimed was necessary for syndicate operations. It also had a reinforced cabinet dedicated entirely to premium treats. Chloe still worked with aggressive dogs. Damian still ruled Veridia City. He remained terrifying in council chambers, ruthless in negotiations, and completely intolerant of anyone who touched Chloe without permission. Progress, she had learned, was not the same as perfection. Some mornings, Damian stood outside her bedroom pretending to assess the hallway. Some evenings, he rested his head in her lap while she reviewed client files, his enormous body stretched across the sofa and his eyes closing whenever she scratched behind his ear. He still denied doing it. Jasper remained unconvinced. The supernatural world continued to fear him. But those who knew the truth feared him more, not less. A beast with nothing to love was dangerous. A beast with a home would destroy anyone who threatened it. Chloe had once believed her work was about correcting behavior. Damian taught her something deeper. Love was not about breaking a wild creature until it obeyed. It was not about removing its teeth, dulling its claws, or making it harmless enough for the world to accept. Love was creating a place where the beast no longer needed to fight every second. A place where it could lower its head without shame. A place where it could willingly lay down its fangs. One evening, Chloe found Damian in the garden watching the sunset. He wore the charcoal hoodie she loved. His dark hair moved in the warm breeze, and his profile remained as hard and imposing as the day he had kicked down her door. She approached from behind and wrapped her arms around his waist. Damian covered her hands with his. "Successful day?" he asked. "Very." "Did Princess bite anyone?" "Only you." "She is unstable." "She's improving." "She attacked a monarch." "You moved her blanket." "It was in my chair." Chloe smiled against his back. Damian turned and pulled her into his arms. The claiming mark at her neck warmed whenever he touched her. "Do I receive a reward?" he asked. "For surviving Princess? For demonstrating restraint. You threatened to have her exiled. I did not act on the threat." Chloe pretended to consider. Damian lowered his chin onto her shoulder. The Alpha King waited. Chloe kissed him softly. "Good boy." His arms tightened around her. His wolf rumbled with contentment through their bond. Damian kissed the mark on her neck and whispered the words he now gave her every night. Good home. If you enjoyed this hilarious, steamy, and action-packed paranormal romance audiobook, please hit the like button and subscribe for more epic stories.